Board to order. Gavin, would you please provide our invocation today?
Absolutely. May we bow. Dear God, we come just as humbly as we know how. First, just thanking you for everything that you've given us, God. We thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, God. We thank you for a reasonable portion of a sound mind, God. We ask that you manifest yourself in this meeting, God. You said where two or three believers gather in your name, you'll be present. So, God, we're asking you just to be here, just to sit in this meeting, to guide our hearts, guide our thoughts, God, as we work to do the business for the city of Odessa. But most importantly, God, we ask that whatever we do is to your glory. God, rule our hearts, guide our thoughts, and control our lives, that as we continue to do the work for the city of Odessa, we may become and continue to be servants of all. All these things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Let's do the pledges. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the minutes, and I have a few comments. I think there's one typo in here, and I could show that to Norma. If you look at the page 2, and it starts with the resolution associated with Champion X, there are 4 items on here that came through the compliance committee, and in each case, it notes that they were approved. The compliance committee is an advisory committee, and I think it's more appropriate to say that they are recommended for the grant, and I've got that noted just to change the first one, just to change the word approved to recommended. The second item there where it says the civil engineering program, I think it would be proper to say where it says the robust, it talks about Mr. Bell stated that UTPB wanted to create a robust civil engineering program, and then I'd like to put a comma there and say, which would serve the ODC's economic development mission through workforce training. I think it's important to understand that each one of these grants that we approve match up with our mission, and I'm pretty sure we talked about the fact that this was workforce training, certainly when it came to the recommendation. The resolution with regard to infrastructure facade grant for 523 North grant, we just changed the word approved to recommended. And then down there where in the Ella Noel Art Museum, that it says, I think it should say approved to terminate, recommended termination of the agreement. I think that's more appropriate. And then the grant to support the upgrades, where we approved, then we turned around and approved a grant for the Ella Noel Art Museum. I think it would be proper to, at the end of that sentence, Ms. Dean stated the request was for $600,000, the same amount as the previous agreement, just so they know that. I think it's important. That's what we were talking about doing, was we're approving an agreement that really matched up with what we had before. Does anybody else? And there's like I say, there's a typo in the general development plan. It should say thoroughfares instead of thoroughfare. But does anybody else have any comments or questions regarding our minutes? I would entertain a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve as amended. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay. Let's see. All right, the citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public may address the ODC board regarding any of its agenda items before or during consideration of the item. See anyone there? Contractors' reports, Tom?
Usually I would say good afternoon, but good morning to you. I'm going to keep mine short today. There's not a lot of changes from last month, but you'll see where we start on the first page with our projects. You mentioned Champion X. That's actually Project X. We're waiting to get more specific numbers from them as far as their capital investment and number of full-time jobs and payroll. But it will be a very good project if we can land that. I think I described it last time as an internal competition within the company, and we're trying to get this project here in Ector County. The one I'll focus a little bit on is Project Blizzard King. It's got a new name. We were working on it as Project Thunderstorm, which came from the actual local developer, but then we've realized we were working parallel with the state of Texas and the governor's office. We also changed the first line there. Last time you saw it as a CapEx of $100 million plus. You now see a CapEx of $30 billion plus. And so it's a significant project if we can land it. The reason I wanted to focus on that a little bit, I get a lot of inquiries now with regards to data centers and everything. That's what this project is. Takes a little while to figure out how they work and do things. And so with this project, we have a local developer in the region, in the Permian, a gentleman who's the principal with a company that's publicly traded on NASDAQ. And he puts the project together, identifies a piece of property, and what he did is he reached out to us early on and said, are y'all interested in a data center in Ector County, and will you work with us? And obviously we said yes, and so we've worked to connect them with things like water, electricity, find a piece of property, in this case find a piece of property that they're willing to pay for that's at a price they like, and then you don't really have a data center project until you line up a power commitment and you line up what is called a hyperscaler. And these are the folks that store the data in the cloud. And there's actually, which last year I sent the board, and with the new board I need to send that information to y'all. You can actually charge a sales tax on the data stored in the cloud. And there's a formula for that, which we've identified, which I'll share with y'all. When I get back to the office, I'll email it to you. But so we've got the developer. He now has a signed power commitment, which tells us in the industry we've got a project. He's waiting to get a deal inked with the hyperscaler. We've got a hyperscaler that we've now met with multiple times. They've made some significant news in the Wall Street Journal lately because Monday they signed an agreement with Microsoft, and the value of their company increased 80% overnight. And so, but the problem is they haven't signed on the dotted line. Now, the good thing about it with developers, they're talking to 3 other hyperscalers parallel. And so this gentleman, especially now that he has power, we feel very strongly we're going to get a data center and have an announcement in the not too distant future. We just don't know who the hyperscaler is and what it's going to look like. But his initial commitment, and they did have a press release on it, their initial power commitment is 250 megawatts, but they're out recruiting more because they want to eventually grow this into a 1 gig data center, which would be on the level of what you see under construction in Abilene. And so I did want to kind of highlight that a little bit. It's moving forward. And I make an apology. I was going to bring a hard copy today of the, we're still running through it, but it's essentially completed the spreadsheet you wanted from the very first project through now. We've got that. I will email that to the board when I get back to the office just for informational purposes so y'all can see that. I just didn't bring a hard copy today, but we do have that. I will tell you that right now we don't have much to report on BRNE, but we're starting to schedule new appointments now, business retention and expansion. You know, we've had a big kind of, I don't want to call it turnover, but new team members join us. MJ Martinez, who is going to handle our BRNE, is here in the audience, and we started scheduling. We got her up to speed, and she knows the message and what to look for. And what we want to start doing, in the past, we've really kind of just provided a list to y'all about our BRNE visits. But what we want to start doing is providing you actual information we take away from them. What are the businesses telling us? And then when you guys are reviewing your business development plan and things of that nature, there's information we're getting from actual businesses that you know may be useful for you when you're doing your planning with ODC. And so those were really the main things. Monica Schauner's not here today. Unfortunately, there's a family health issue she's having to deal with. But she has started working with her program and moving that forward with Workforce. And so we'll provide much more detail next month with regards to BRNE and Workforce. And then the only other thing I wanted to touch upon, we are reviewing, there's some changes we want to make to the ODC grant application that we're going to recommend at the next meeting to the board to consider. And also changes we want to make now that the infrastructure and facade grant for downtown is not under DOI. Essentially, DOI doesn't exist anymore. And so since we're doing that, we've identified, now that we've run through some applications, we've identified maybe some questions that should be asked or questions that shouldn't. One of the items I didn't mention to you in a phone call earlier about one of the downtown projects, we're going to request that 2 pictures of the front facade be submitted with every application. They're not required to submit that. And then some things like on the regular ODC grant, it's been mentioned by a couple of people, including this board and compliance, about a question regarding bankruptcy on that application, things of that nature. So we're going to see what, make a recommendation on what we don't think we need, which I'm not sure we have any of that yet, but also what we need to add to both of those applications. And we'll have that next meeting for you. Yes, ma'am.
One question. Sorry. One question regarding the data centers.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're going to get some detailed information with regard to how sales tax is going to be treated, because I think that's really important. The other item is, do we have a better understanding with regard to how the capital investment's going to impact our ad valorem taxes, our tax base and whatnot, because that's also very important, particularly with the numbers that we're looking at as far as an investment.
I know we have met with Dustin Fawcett and talked about this with the county, because the significance of that amount of investment, they would prefer to stagger that thing in, because of the dollars involved. The problem we have right now, pinning it down, is we've been made aware they're going to ask for incentives, obviously. Abatement will be one of them. But because you've got a developer on the front end putting the project together, and then a hyperscaler that you're trying to sell the project to, and I asked that of the developer, I said, who's going to be the one wanting the incentives on this thing? And he said, well, probably us. And I said, the hyperscaler you're trying to recruit did indicate to us that it is, and that's why the state's involved. It's a competitive project, and they're looking at us, and we believe the state of Missouri. And so the developer is doing something here, and his intentions are here in Ector County, and he's already actually closed on part of the land that he wants to do this thing on. Okay,
but my question is, I know that that they're likely to ask for a tax abatement, which is going to it will give them some type of ad valorem tax abatement for some period of time where they don't have to pay, or they only have to pay part of the taxes due. My question is, how is, and I think it'd be a conversation that we'd have to have that would include somebody at the appraisal district. How is the capital investment going to hit the tax rolls, regardless of whether there's a tax abatement or not? Is it going to be in two pieces where there's the hyperscaler maybe has an investment that hits the tax rolls, and the developer has an investment, or
Well, I don't think pending the abatement, it's not necessarily going to hit it all at once. I can tell you.
I don't care whether it hits
Yeah.
it all at once. And my question is, at the end of when the project's complete and running, how does that, what hits? I mean, if we're talking about let's say we're talking about a $15 billion project. Is $15 billion going to hit the tax base when the project is complete and up and running, or is it a portion of that?
It would be a portion depending on the abatement. Now I can tell you what.
No, I'm not talking about the abatement part. I'm talking about once it's done, and they get.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it from what
money
money they would actually be paying.
Yeah, I know. If they get a 5-year abatement, okay, at the end of 5 years, what's it going to end up on the tax rolls? If it's a 10-year abatement, what's going to end up on the tax rolls?
That's a good question, and that would be an appraisal district question, because which we got on our list of to-dos. We have to find out the depreciation with regards to data centers, which we do not have that information yet, and because there is one data center in town, a small one, but it's actually a school district, so they're probably not.
Well, I think it's really important that we understand that, because if we're going to consider, and I'm going to just throw a number out there, a $20 or $25 million incentive, we need to understand how that's eventually going to expand the tax base, which is part of our mission, and what those numbers are. If it's a $15 billion project that's presented to us, and $500 million ends up on the tax rolls, for whatever reason, and I'm using an extreme example, that's really important for us to know. If it's a $15 billion project, and at least $10 billion of it hits it, well, that's important too, because it's a lot easier to go ahead and approve the project. So
We can get a formula on the depreciation for next
we'd
meeting.
like to understand
Yeah.
that better.
If not, email it beforehand.
Understand it better.
Yeah, we can get that. We just hadn't gotten that formula
Sure.
yet. Yes,
Two
ma'am.
things. I'm unclear about who owns what. The developer is putting this together. Does he represents a company that is paying for this project, right? Who owns the building? Who owns all the computers? Who owns the land?
The developer will either lease it or sell it outright. Most of them are sell, but some are lease. This developer has indicated he'll put the project together, getting the commitments from electricity, putting the building together, all of that puts a value on it, and then a hyperscaler will come in and pay for what that value is. But they will typically agree to that beforehand. Like,
So-
here's what we're going to pay you to put whatever part we need you to put together.
But the hyperscaler is really just renting space, right? Or do they
They
actually
could
own part of it?
like in Abilene, the big one. They're doing that outright. They started out with a developer, and then they bought the developer out of it, and so now I believe it's Oracle, and there's a Far Eastern financial group, and they're the ones financing that whole thing.
Okay. My second question is, have we been able to put together yet the conference or the session or whatever we want to call it on the sales taxes and things we can do, that we were going to include compliance and ODC and?
Well, actually, we had a conversation yesterday, Mr. Boutin and I, about doing a sales tax workshop for, I think the first one, what we really need is our staff. You're supposed to do it every 2 years, so our staff needs it. There's city staff, if they touch projects, Tina knows that. I think you've been through at least one. And then the council and city legal. And so we're working. I think right now there's a discussion to have with the mayor about what a good date is, And then we're talking about having Jeff Moore come in and conduct it.
And we talked about maybe two different orientation items. One being the sales tax training, the other one being an economic development 101, if you will. And the question would be, do you have those in one session or two? Because I don't think it's hard for people to give up a half a day or something like that. So we might have a couple hour, 2 hour sessions or something like that. So we need to get with the mayor and figure out and start working on schedules and trying to get whoever's going to lead those. We have, trying to remember what the gentleman's name who would do the sales tax training that you had recommended.
We talked about he could maybe do the 101 is Carlton Schwab with TDC.
I had him back.
And then Jeff Moore, who is the attorney that and they both know the sales tax really well, but Dave and I had this conversation yesterday. For reasons we think having the attorney there, in case anybody has confusion on legalities, he'll be more black and white and address it as such.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Tom? All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
We have current media partners, the Black Chamber, UTPB, and Motran are in your board packet. Unless anybody has any questions, we do have some representatives here that could answer those. Kaylee, the financials? Or Kayla, I guess.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not Kaylee. I'm sorry.
We know.
Thank you for having me up here. I apologize, number one, for getting you this information so late. We were working very hard on getting y'all current data. So what y'all were able to receive this morning was as most current financial information as we can provide. Our financials actually closed for August on September 15th. So July is as close as we have. So we are officially up to date. It was a little late because working through this process, I found several reconciling errors that I had to work out with accounting and stuff. So and since I was new to this set of books, I wanted to make sure that I was right before I pulled the trigger. So they are here, they are updated. I did still use the old format. However, we are going to work on getting you some year-over-year comparisons and things as we move forward, because those help tremendously. Kaylee and I are focusing really hard on improving our efficiencies within financial services. The city's growing, our responsibilities are growing, so we're having to kind of change how we do things in financial services. Kaylee is going to make sure she stays over the budget and strategic stuff. She's very good on that end, where my skills are more on financials and regulatory and audit stuff. So we're going to kind of divide and conquer, but we will be collaborating together to make sure I always stay on the same page and give y'all the best service possible. So that's what we're doing here. So you have the financials in front of you. Again, we did not change format. We are working on making it better and easier to read. The first thing I'd like to note is the assets did increase by approximately $2.8 million. Of course, that comes from the investments and the sales tax, the majority of the gain. The fund balance section with the liabilities, you'll note that the short-term liabilities actually did decrease by $403,000 and the long-term decreased by $1.2 million. This detail is readily seen in the back, one of the back pages. The changes in reserve fund balance, those tied out, and give you a real clear picture of where those numbers came from. And then your unreserved stayed the same, and the text dot and all that stayed the same as well.
So am I misreading this, or on the total fund balance, it's about $100,000 off from the income statement?
So
The statement.
I don't think you must not have gotten the most updated one.
I didn't keep the one you handed out. This is this morning.
Well, that should have been, the one that got sent out should have been here.
Oh, yeah, no, it's different. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We were off. It was off 4,000 and
Okay.
some change, and I was able to find that it was a beginning of year balance change from our audit.
Okay, that was my question, so.
Yes, we were, and I struggled with that one. That's the one that made us so late. And you're gonna laugh, cause you know the accounting world. I went and looked through my notes, and that number was written down exactly where it was, and I knew all along what it was. It took a second set of eyes to point it out to me, though. Does that make better sense now?
Yeah, it does.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So the P&L statement, it's again, it's the same. We didn't really change this one. And they all tie out. We're, I think, $25 still off. And I know what it is. That's an other AP that I just need to flesh out. So,
And tell us again on the investment summary. Is the investment summary, the difference in the balance sheet, is that because of fair market value versus cost? Or why is that different? Or is it,
which one's different?
well, I'm
Oh,
thinking,
the local funds. Okay, yes, that's right. Accounting is behind on transferring, because we use the funds in our pool and we transfer funds.
right,
So that's what the difference is. It would be in the local government pools. The difference is what is due to the city in cash from expenditures. And I can give you the breakdown of the trial balance if you need to see that.
so the 110 million ending balance, the difference in that and the balance on the balance sheet under assets, that difference is owed to the city?
It's about $14 million in cash that's owed to the city from this. So the good thing for ODC, we're behind, is ODC's getting all this interest that we haven't transferred over. Our accounting team is severely understaffed, and so they're catching up. And so
Okay.
this is another one of those things you'll see improving soon. It's been brought to their attention.
So this is reflecting about an $11 million difference, but you're saying there's a $14 million, so it could it be 11 million?
It's because there's also a sales tax receivable in the.
Yes, see, it isn't
Yeah,
on this
see,
number,
there's
it's
interest
these.
receivable,
There's other things. in
Okay,
there.
it's more
got it,
than,
got
it's
it,
more than 11.
Yeah.
got it,
Yeah.
got it.
So has that not been expensed?
It's been expensed, so how it works is whenever we have a pooled cash fund, so everything comes out of one cash account, anything the city writes, that includes ODC expenses. The proper practice at the end of the month is we get what the ODC expenses were, and we just do a bank-to-bank transfer to take it from ODC's fund cash, the actual hard cash, and put it back to the city for what the expenditures were. That's how it should happen. We are behind in that process.
So for the financial statements, it's happened, but the money is still in that account. That actual transfer has
Yes.
not happened, is
Yes,
what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be possible, I don't know if this is since you know what it is, would it be possible to, so the financials are correct, on this schedule of the investments, would it be possible for you to just put maybe a footnote that
Sure.
says, to be transferred from?
Less due to city or
Yeah,
something?
just so, because otherwise I'm sure I'll forget and
that's a
ask you
great-
that question all
That's a
the
great
time.
suggestion. We should have done that. Great suggestion. Yes, ma'am. I will do that going forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions on these?
Any questions for Kayla?
What about our schedule of our reserves, what we're gonna use the next, are we gonna get that
Is-
monthly? That's maybe, is that a Kaylee
The
question?
forecast?
Uh-huh,
So that's probably a good question to ask as to how often should we have that?
Yeah, so I think
That was my toe. Whenever we first put that together as a investment committee, we had talked about doing that kind of analysis quarterly.
okay.
We can do it more frequently. There's no issue with that. It's a very user-friendly spreadsheet. So we can do it as deals come along. We can do it.
I would recommend that we do it quarterly unless we have a material
Okay.
change. You know, some significant grant award that we make. So that, and maybe the way to do that, Kaylee, would be if we're contemplating a significant grant award, then we probably ought to plug that number in there, and then we can obviously adjust it, you know, on the fly, if you will. So maybe do it quarterly, and then if we're contemplating a substantial grant award, that we see the impact of that before we approve the grant award.
Okay.
And
Does that make sense? Do you think that'd be good?
I do. And I've slept since this, and I didn't pull out my notes from last month, so forgive me. But the loan, the $5 million loan, or which actually goes up, but is that this assign? Where is that on here?
So
because it was going to happen by the end of our year end, right?
It's on our agenda today to
Yeah.
discuss here in a little
Okay.
bit.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I couldn't find it. I'm still on the financials. Okay.
Anybody have any other questions on the financials? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, to the officer, committee and officers reports, the Odessa Partnership is scheduled to meet September 22nd. Did the advertising committee meet?
No, we've got a meeting set up for next week.
Okay, great. Compliance, anything additional on what compliance is doing, Peggy?
There was one meeting last month on one project, and I didn't get to make that meeting. So I don't know if anything happened on that or not.
Okay.
Tom, do you? I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
substantive.
Yeah, okay. Investment review, we did not meet. So we'll move on to item 8, and I think Alex is going to make the presentation. This is on the I-20 corridor. This is the loan to the city item that we had talked about during our budget
Yeah.
process.
Okay.
Good morning, Board. My name's Alex Rowlett. I'm the Director of Utilities. So, City of Odessa Utilities Department is here to request a loan for a project that we have coming up. This project is on the horizon. It's collaboration with TxDOT. So TxDOT is widening I-20. This widening is going to happen from East Loop 338 all the way to FM 1936. So with that widening of the road, we are having to relocate a majority of utilities that we have, mostly the larger lines that run to our Darrington facility. The project consists of 26,100 linear feet of water and 16,700 linear feet of wastewater. It's a total relocation of 54 lines. Currently, we have not started the project. We've been in talks with TxDOT of how to move forward. They have changed their let date on the project. They have also changed their phasing and added a phase to the project. So what they're going to do is split the project in phases. It's now going to be from Loop 338 on the east side to Comanche Trail Park. And then that will be the first phase, and that will be 2029 will be the let date for that. And then they will then do the second phase of the project, which will be Comanche Trail West to FM 1936. The majority of our utility relocations will be in that first portion of the project. So with what we're requesting is $4,505,163. This will be for engineering, design, topographic survey, subsurface utility engineering, and the professional services will have design plan specifications, opinion of probable cost of the utility relocations, So that's what we're requesting. Now, there has been a change to what, I think there was an additional ask of 5 million, and then we were gonna come back and ask for 20 next year, or at some point, I'm not sure when. 15 or 20.
15 to
that's-
make it 20.
So at this point in time, we have been able to work with TxDOT, and TxDOT is going to do a joint bid. So at this time, we're not gonna come back and ask for 15 or the 20 that we were gonna come ask for next year. So all that the city is going to have to do is provide design plans for the portion of the project. TxDOT will then take that portion of the project and implement it into their construction of the project. Because at that time, what they were requesting of the city, or previously, is that we do the design plans plus the construction before they came in and widened their road. But the issue that we ran into at the city was the extensive amount of what it would cost the city to do the relocations. The probable cost for that was $64 million. We didn't have the funds, that's why we were gonna come ask for that and then do a reimbursement. But we have worked with TxDOT, they're gonna do a joint bid, so we're not gonna come back and ask for that second portion. The only portion that we're requesting is the 4.5 million at this time. And it is a reimbursable 100% back to the ODC. And that will be once the design plans are finished, once the design plans have been submitted to TxDOT, they will approve the plans to make sure that they fit within their scope of the project, make sure there's no conflicts with them widening the road. And then the city will be responsible for submitting a reimbursement packet to TxDOT. They will then take time to review the packet. They will approve that. It will be a little bit of a process. The design phase that we're showing right now will end December 2026. And then at that point, we will put the packet together. We'll submit the packet to TxDOT. TxDOT will then approve it. And then once they approve it, 30 days back to us. I will be honest with you, we have already done a previous phase to this. It did take a little bit of time for us to get the reimbursement back. It was our first time as a city to do a project like this with TxDOT. That project was about $6 million of construction. But it took, Kayla, do you know the time frame?
November, it started in November of 24, we just got the payment like maybe a month ago.
So it did take a little bit of time, but it was our first time to do that. So it took a little bit to understand how TxDOT wanted their reimbursement packet. So now we've had a little bit of time, so we do think it's gonna come a little bit quicker. But it's 100% reimbursable. It'll come right back to you guys once we receive that money from TxDOT. Yes, sir.
Probably in 2027.
I would say 2027, yes, sir.
So this is 4.505 of
Yes,
what
ma'am.
we were anticipating being 5 million.
Yes, ma'am.
right? So is this a hard number?
This
Or are
is-
you gonna, or is there potential? I'm just trying to say if we should authorize up to 5 million, or is this the number?
So this is the number for that. Now, if we run into any issues with having to add any scope, the city has already done a SUE, a subsurface utility, to check all of the utilities already that we paid for out of pocket that we're gonna get on the reimbursement when we submit the second packet. I'm hoping we don't run. Now, this number does not have a contingency. This is strictly what the engineering and design will cost. If you guys are willing to give us 5 million, I would be very happy. This is the number of what they have proposed to us on what it's gonna cost. Now, if anything does happen and there's some more services that we need from them, I don't know if the city would wanna float that our way, or we would come back and ask for more. So
Well, we've had this issue come up twice in the last couple of months.
absolutely.
So I'm just wondering if we should approve the 4,505,000 with the caveat that says, and it could be expanded to 5 million. That's what we had, up to 5 million if necessary, so we don't go through this thing we've been going through.
Absolutely. And again, if that's what the board would like to do, it's completely reimbursable, 100%. The ODC board is gonna receive 100% of that back.
I was just gonna add, on the agenda item, it says that we're also gonna execute an agreement, a contract between ODC and the city. So if you guys wanted to make it 5 million, you could just say that in the motion that you make, so it's recorded in the minutes. And then whenever we go to put the agreement together, we can do it for the $5 million rather than the 4.5 that's listed on the resolution.
Well, I'm not trying to give you another 500,000 if you don't need it. What I'm
Well,
trying to do
yes.
is make it so we don't have to
Sure.
go through this process we've
Right.
done the last 2 months to say,
Right.
this is what you've asked for, this is what we're going to authorize.
Right.
But that could be amended to be up to $5 million, just so.
So what would the process look like if the board chose to change this resolution to up to $5 million? What would it look like, Alex or Katie, with regard to the change that you said, okay, so now we've got a $250,000 addition or $300,000, whatever the number is. How are we gonna be advised of that?
So I could come back to council or to the board before we approve a change order, if that's what you guys would want to do. I could present you guys with a change order and say, this is, $250,000 change order. This is the scope of work that we're gonna add to this, and then you guys could approve it at that time, and then we could go.
I think it would be important I think it'd be important for us to know what and why,
Okay.
if we wanna change it. The other thing is, this is gonna be such a lengthy process that if they did have to come back and amend our loan agreement, I mean, that's probably not a big deal, but it would be just as good a way because if they're gonna have to come back to us to approve a change order, which I think makes sense, then it would probably be just as easy to amend our loan agreement to up the number.
Because by the time this happens,
Do whatever it
you're gonna
is.
have a whole different board up there when it comes back, if we can make it a little clearer.
Yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah.
eliminate the process we've gone through in the last 2 months, but that's fine. I just somewhere, I think, because it will be a different board, those of us that are left will need to remember that we did obligate ourselves to $5 million.
Could we just, in the language, approve the amount they're requesting, but put some language that says, but up to 5 million, and put some language in there that just says, anything superseding the 4.5 would be with the conference or after informing or after conversation with ODC. I mean, with that, could that language then just settle that?
Can they add that like that?
Yeah, I can add whatever language, if you provide it or to say something substantial.
And only reason, I think, to Peggy and Tim's point, for those who aren't here in another board, I think that language lays it out clear exactly what the intent would be for anything that supersedes that, or any change orders or anything that supersedes that.
I don't know.
I have a question in the resolution. It says that this $5 million, is it just for design, it's just for engineering?
It is strictly for engineering and
Okay.
design.
Well, in our part, it says from FM 1208, which is Martin County, east of us. I know it is, 1208, 1212, that's all Martin County coming here. So are we paying, is this $5 million paying for their infrastructure engineering too? That's the way this reads. It
I
looks
don't
like
have
we're
the
paying for all
resolution.
that.
Is that in the ETJ?
It's just-
So everything that we're doing is just within city limits.
It says the study focuses on
40
a
miles.
40-mile section.
Okay, so that's their whole project. I'm sorry. So no,
Well, I mean, but it looks like we're gonna be responsible for part of that.
Okay, no, sir. All of ours is. Okay, so that's the length of their project. So they've started in mid. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you.
If we're donating to their cause too.
We're not. No, this is strictly just within inside the city limits within our water and wastewater infrastructure. So if we need to change that, we might need
So
to
if it
take that
says,
out.
if it said the utility relocations project on I-20 from west of FM 1936 to just east of FM 1208, all within the city limits?
Well, but 1936 is not in the city limits.
I think they annexed it actually, I think.
There is a portion of it is annexed to
They
where.
did that down interstate, and that's why you have so much trouble when there's an accident.
Mhm.
Because part of that's to the city and nobody can get to it.
It is.
when there's an accident on Interstate 20, it's part of it's in the city limits now, and it's a mess. Even who has authority or jurisdiction over the accident.
So if we can, we could change. Tina, can we change that language? Okay, yeah.
As far as the location?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll provide me.
I'll
that.
provide you with that.
And just make sure the motion says to approve the resolution with whatever changes, and I can do that.
Perfect.
It may be nitpicking, but.
I totally understand it. Yes, sir.
I just-
Absolutely.
And I just hope it's, we're gonna pay for this, because $5 million seems a lot for engineering and a drawing.
Well, now's the time to tweak
Right.
this language if we want
Yeah.
to do it.
For sure, absolutely. And like it doesn't seem like this should be a large project, but like it's a 63 million. That's just construction,
Right.
is what it handles all of our large wastewater lines that are about 20 foot deep. It's a 54-inch Hobos line that takes the majority of the west side wastewater to the plant, and it's 20 foot deep in the ground. So it's
And at an angle.
at an angle, yes, sir, all the way. So
I
it's
get all that. I understand every bit of that.
And this is, this is put to us as a loan. We didn't even know exactly what the money was for. Remember when we put it in our budget? So
Well-
it's not, the city is gonna repay us this. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not, we're not investing in this project.
No.
Correct. Our investment is basically the lack of return on our investment. Our
Right.
investments are.
I will say that it does open up, let me rephrase this. It helps with the road being built, which helps economic development.
Right.
I think that's a
Yeah,
huge
I-
portion of, I think the direction of ODC is that it's
Right.
gonna be able to widen I-20, which is gonna help with economic development across the board for
Sure.
Odessa, the city of Odessa, so.
And it's not money we're having to match. It's just, we're getting it all back.
Yeah, you'll get it all back.
We've matched some funds before with Tech
Yeah, I think it's it's a great benefit for you guys.
But as Ms. Peggy said, we don't want somebody coming back again. Even if we're here or
Absolutely.
not here, oh, we messed up.
Absolutely.
We approved invoices for one of these projects, and it was supposed to be done, and then if you really wanted to push issues, they came back and said, well, we didn't finish this. And that was one of the questions I brought up the first time was, who's looking at the invoices and who's making sure these jobs are done before they're being paid? And, I
So
think
the
somebody
city,
is now.
and that's something else that we will do after the project, and this will be on the city. Our construction inspectors will be inspecting, even though TxDOT's going to be doing the construction.
Yes.
We will have a construction inspector on site who will be able to verify that they've done everything to grade and done everything that they need to do on all of our water and wastewater lines.
Awesome.
So it still falls back on us. We still have an obligation at the end to check everything, so.
Any further comments, questions?
So y'all may not give TxDOT a certificate of completion. I'm just messing with you.
Don't start that.
Well, yeah, it took us a while to get where we're at. We're very fortunate. TxDOT worked out with us the joint bid that helped us, the city, out quite a bit. So
I would entertain a motion, and please clearly state your motion.
So move.
Can I make a suggestion? Motion to approve the resolution with the revision to the location of the project to specify the portion within Odessa city limits. Does that cover it?
And the modification of the number,
And-
if that's what you want your motion to be.
Right.
That's what it is. That's what I want.
that's what he was trying
Right.
to. Perfect.
You want a cap
Up to
of
the-
5 million,
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
and then that this description includes all within the city limits. And so I have a motion. Did I get a second?
Second.
A motion is second.
Can you read it back just to be? I mean, I think it says what I need to say.
But not all your wastewater and water lines along the interstate are in the city limits, are they? What I'm saying is you may have to move stuff that's outside the city limits.
No,
To take care of your city.
Just along the corridor of I-20.
Okay, I'm just
making sure.
asking.
Okay.
That's just like the sewer line, it all runs downhill.
All right, this is just spitballing, so if y'all don't like it, we can redo it. Motion to approve the resolution with the revision to location of the project to specify the portion within the city of Odessa limits, and revision of the total agreement to a maximum of $5 million with special approval requirements over the $4.5 million as presented.
Yep.
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have, the next item is the facade and infrastructure grant at 310 Dotsey, and there's a request to table that because there's additional information coming from the potential grantee. I do have one question about the agreement that was provided to us that says, the fifth whereas item says, whereas based on the proposed building facade improvement plans, Tiny Footprints Inc. qualifies for a total infrastructure grant up to 21. Let's see, no, wait a minute, that's not the part.
It says up to 21, and then it said 50.
Well, then it says in the performance agreement, never mind, that's where, it says, down on the bottom of page 1
Yeah.
of the performance agreement, it says company plans to make infrastructure improvements and estimated cost of such and facade improvements, such and such. Let's see. It says, no, it's the next
Well,
page.
it's right there. It says,
No, it's on section 4 where it says qualified expenditures made to property in an amount not to exceed. They're required to make these expenditures not to exceed, and I think it says I think it should say at a minimum of, shouldn't it?
Instead of not to
Instead
exceed.
of not to exceed. If you look at section 4, item A, qualified expenditures development basically says that other paid documentation, they're supposed to submit paid documentation in form acceptable to ODC, qualified, made to the property in an amount not to exceed. Well, if they submit something less than that, they're still gonna get the same grant. That doesn't make any sense to me. It should be at a minimum of.
Yes.
Yep.
They have committed to spend a minimum of $178,000 and a minimum of $46,000, so. I think, again, going forward, does that make sense? Is that right? Am I right?
So the agreements, the one that Mr. Moore
Mhm.
prepared, had the in a minimum amount, and Mr. Stretcher and I discussed it, and he wanted it to say not to exceed in both places. The way that it's written is that they can spend as much money as they want, but they're only required to submit that dollar amount. So it's just saying that if they spend 10 million, they're only required to prove to us that they spent the 178 or whatever it is. So the language did used to say in a minimum amount. That is correct.
Okay.
And
but-
it's just a change we've recently made.
Okay, but here's the problem with that, to me.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm right or not.
Sure.
But we're gonna grant based on the fact that they've said they're gonna spend this money. If they spend less than that money and provide invoices that says they spent less, then we would have done a grant maybe for less than what we end up paying them.
There is a provision that says if they provide less, we pay less. It is prorated. Let me
Okay.
try to find that.
I guess I missed it. I just wanna make sure
Yes, sir.
that it doesn't that we don't end up approving grants and they provide, and they spend less than what we calculated our grant amounts on.
Yes, sir.
But what this is saying is that if they spend more, they don't get more.
Correct.
They're gonna show proof of spending this much to receive our commitment.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. And I think the way that it was written before is we don't necessarily need to see that you spent 100,000 more than what you were required. We just need to see that you spent at least what you were required to spend. But I'm trying to find this section on, Yeah, if they don't spend the amount, they don't get, maybe it's in section 4. I normally have a section, and I'm not finding it right now, but it just says that if they fail to, perform all of it, the ODC, at its discretion, can prorate the amount of their payment
Okay.
based on the amount that they actually spent.
I guess we'll be considering this in the future, and these numbers are probably gonna change a little bit, so as long as we've got that language in there, I think that's all
Absolutely.
that's all I'm interested in.
Okay, I'll make sure that it's in there.
Okay. great.
Okay?
Item 10, discuss and consider resolution approving the compliance consulting services agreement with Whitley Penn. Tom?
Yes, in your packet, you'll find a resolution along with a proposed contract from Whitley Penn. They have been performing the compliance audits for us now for almost 3 years. Initially, it started out at $6,500 per audit. They raised it last year at the beginning to $7,800, and they did tell us that they would keep it at that same rate for this year. They indicated that after this year, they'd probably raise it again, but we're not looking at that right now. We're looking at this one.
So nothing's changed in the scope of work?
Scope of work has not changed. They reviewed the agreements and determined what the CapEx and the employment and payroll and things of that nature need to be at. And then but one thing they do differently from our previous auditor, they use a portal called SureLink. They work directly with the client and set that up and tell the project what to download so that they can review it.
The other difference, I think, the way this has evolved is if there's a disconnect between Whitley Penn and the grantee, you get involved in
Yes.
order to resolve it.
We get involved quite a bit.
Yeah.
And what I find is, shockingly, the client does not read the contract. And so the instructions on what to do and how to do it as far as submitting a request for payment, a lot of times we have to get involved on that end and help them with that and then connect them with the city's finance department. Sometimes it's, especially like if you're dealing with a tax consultant, they jump in and they want payment quickly. I think some of their compensation is based on that. Yeah. And so they're real pushy, and we try to, we usually take the pushiness.
Yeah, if there's a little bit of a rocky road, you marshal everybody through that. I think that's the point I'm making. So this is the same contract that we had previously. No changes.
Any other questions?
How many of these do they do a year for you?
Just depends on the number of projects that get audited, where they're at. This year, if I had to guess, I don't know, maybe 10.
Every time we make a payment
Every time we
on the
make a payment.
contract,
Yeah.
they have to.
And we bring a draft of the audit before y'all to consider. Typically, the policy has been if there's no issues with the audit, it comes directly to ODC board. If there is an issue, if they didn't achieve the goal, whether it's payroll, employment, CapEx, all of the above, it goes to compliance. They look at it, review it, they make a recommendation. In the past, usually the recommendation would be like, let's say they did 90% of what they were supposed to do in that particular year. The board has generally looked at that and said, okay, we're approved 90% payment of what they were supposed to get for that year.
Any other questions?
Tom, I just glanced at this because I'd studied it pretty hard last time, but this doesn't require them to do this audit within a certain period of time, does it? It's very loose. I mean, it says they're relying on the access, accuracy, so forth and so on. that's the only issue I think we've had with any of our auditors, is that the ones that happen during the height of tax season, even though the audit department is separate than the tax, but, sometimes it's taken a while to get out there. Are they doing better on that?
There's some foot dragging. And really, sometimes it's on a variety of ends. It could be on our end, it could be on theirs. There's been a variety of reasons why some of these things have dragged on longer. The times have come down. When you were on compliance prior to this board, we had some that were presented up here that were like 2 years in arrears.
Yeah, and I know we got that much better. I guess
Yeah.
I'm just, we have talked multiple times about how long it takes to get a person their check. And this audit, in my opinion, has been one of the reasons that it takes so long. And a lot of times it takes so long because the client doesn't get the information together timely. So there's enough blame to go along, but I think if we stress to, when it's time for a payment, if we stress to our customer that they have to get this information together quickly, because the longer it takes them, the longer it takes the auditors, and the longer it takes to get their check. I mean, all of those things have to happen, and I know that's a concern that we've consistently shared, is how long to get it paid. So any suggestions you would have to speed that process up? But in my opinion, it's because of the audit most times.
And I think it's helped. I think that was the point I was trying to make earlier. I think it's helped when they've been able to step in if the grantee is complaining, or if Whitley Penn is complaining, they got a place to go to, and then he helps resolve it.
Get resolved.
And some of it, and we've actually brought a contract or two back to y'all for an amendment. Sometimes on the front end, they will sign off on a contract that has a timeline that they thought met their needs, and it really doesn't. And so maybe we've had it where they spent their CapEx a lot quicker than they realized, and all of a sudden they want a check right then and there. Well, looking at the agreement, you're not even scheduled to go through compliance yet. And then we've had some that, they signed off, and all of a sudden they had, the museum's a good example. The time length or the contractual time length that they had signed on, they didn't even start construction during that time. And so, we've run into some of that, and then that causes a few headaches as far as getting things amended or lined up
But
properly.
there's no time frame on these auditors to get us a report, but once they invoice us, if we don't pay them in 30 days, they're gonna charge us interest.
That's what I'm saying, the whole timeline is
So
very
should
vague.
we put some timeline on them? And I know it's hard to say, well, your timeline starts this day if your customer hadn't gotten them all the information.
But they can't invoice us until they've done the audit.
That's what but according to Peggy, the time frame has been slowed down because they're not getting us the audit done in time
Well,
to get the customer paid.
The issue has been, and we talked about it before, and I think it's before you come on this time, was it's mainly the customer not giving the auditor the information they need. That's where the
That's why I said.
That is a slow
If
process.
Tom could tell
That's been
them.
the problem, is with the guy getting.
But I think to Thomas's point, the way I would answer it is, we're not out of pocket. We're not paying until the audit is done. But that's when that.
I understand, but they're getting paid to do a service for us and that customer, and, there's no time frame for us, and say, and I've heard accountants before, well, it's tax season.
Yeah.
And then 90 days later, well, we've got quarterly estimates, we've got this. It's like, okay, y'all got a deadline all year long.
Yeah.
Can we set a deadline for them, is my question. That's all I'm asking.
I think it should be for the client. They should have a deadline when this amount of time when the payment's coming due, you have this much time to get the report to the auditor. And then the auditor, if you wanna set a deadline, it'd be that way.
Well, we haven't talked about it with the city, but, you know, maybe something tied to when the official request is made and acknowledged.
Yeah,
You know, we've received your request for payment,
where's the audit?
and then, you know, and maybe that's a time frame on both sides, both the client and the compliance auditor, that, you know, these things all have to be shored up within a certain amount of
Yeah, 'cause
time.
it was, I mean, we had that a few months ago where it was somebody 2 years ago, and we still didn't, they hadn't received any money because they hadn't received an audit. So,
I just wonder if we ought to put something in this contract, if you're not getting the information, you need to let us know. And if you,
yeah.
Well, and that's where
to me,
we
get
get
the process
involved the
going.
most, is we're copied on the emails from Whitley Penn to the client requesting information. And I would say better than half, a majority of them, there'd be a second notice saying, hey, reaching back out with regards to my email last week. You know, we've set up your SureLink or whatever. Could you download these items to the portal? So I'd say the majority of it, yeah, is on the client.
Well, and it is hard for an accounting firm to have to be on call for something like this, because, you know, they come up all different times. And so if the client doesn't provide the, you know, they allocate time to go do it, but if they don't have the information for 3 months, then that totally screws up their schedule too. So I get that. You know, it would be nice, though, I think, if there was something that said, after Whitley Penn has received the information from the client, the audit is due within 45 days or 60, I mean, because they really don't have a timeline to do anything. I mean, if the problem is the client that hasn't given their information, then Whitley Penn shouldn't be penalized until they get that information.
Right.
But once they get it, then they need to have a commitment to do it within a time frame. That's the time frame that I would think is important.
Yes.
And, you know, I'll work with you on whatever you want to put in there. And we can even reach out to Whitley Penn and talk to them about it.
You want to make that a motion
To amend the resolution, the
agreement?
the agreement with them, to add that once Whitley Penn has received the completed information from the client, they would perform the audit within,
at least 60 days.
60 days?
I would say 60 days.
Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah,
that's-
I
that's
do.
fair enough.
Because really and truly, the tax seasons and all of that should not affect
The
this,
audit people.
because it's the audit department. But at least to tell them that it's not it's not an open-ended job.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agreement to add the deadline information associated with the Whitley Penn. Any further discussion?
I do think if they did that, that would be something you could tell the client too. Look, as soon as you get this information, they only have 60 days to get the audit done, so get it and it speeds up your check.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the upcoming date for the next meeting is October 9th, back at our 3 o'clock typical time frame. Anybody have any concern?
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
gonna
the day that, rehab, doing their cook-off. I usually cook.
And I'm
it's,
gonna be
and it's
out of
in
town.
Midland that afternoon.
So this is an excuse for you not to do that.
I'm just telling you. It's just-
And I'm
it's a-
going to be
it's that-
on an annual girls' trip with
All
my
right.
high school.
So let's, so Norma, would you please solicit the board members with regard to maybe some alternative date times for that? So
I don't have to be here.
I don't know, what do we eat? Can't we just show up?
Well, it's supposed to be at the Horseshoe this year instead of out at.
all right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.